When Dante came out back in 2024, he was pretty much immediately seen as one of the best Warframes in the game. His release was so crazy that he got a couple of nerfs afterwards, paired with a couple of buffs and changes that have overall left him in a fantastic state. I have to say, I feel like a lot of people have mixed opinions on Dante as a nuke frame, but like, he can still do it really easily, so. But that is not why I am making a video on him today. Besides the brand new deluxe skin he got, which is pretty sick, he also received his first ever augment in the Constellations update, Noctua Swarm. And you know, here is the thing about this ability. You use the alt fire and sure, you do gain the ability to silence Eximus units who get hit by the Peregrines in the radius of the circle that it drops down. Jumped back a little bit too much. And yes, you do also get energy regen off of hitting enemies in the circle with the birds. And that's great. But there are a couple caveats here. The energy per enemy does not scale off of ability strength, so you are stuck at 2 per enemy. And with a single cast of any of your abilities at base efficiency requiring more than 20 energy, it would take you, if we assume that there are 5 enemies getting hit by the Peregrines, which it doesn't happen that quickly, it would take you like 3 or 4 seconds to generate that much energy. But that means that the enemies you just hit with your alt fire that has these stats need to survive that. They need to survive any other damage you might be dealing because, you know, Noctua kind of just slaps like that. And also, your teammates need to not shoot the enemies in the very hard to see circle in the horde shooter game. I feel like the goal of this augment was to give Dante another support aspect. He now silences enemies and steals energy for your allies. But if we consider the pace of modern Warframe, that just doesn't work. People are going to shoot things when they see them and they're going to kill them before they're able to gain more than like 10 energy off of them. So you know what? Screw this augment. We're going full support Dante, and I'm using Brightbonnet on as one. Yeah, alright guys, I'm not making a video using the new augment, but that is because the new augment is just not very good. I'm gonna be straight up with y'all. It is not very good. For those of you already familiar with all 4 of these abilities and you just want to skip straight to the build explanation, that will be timestamped down below. But for those of you unfamiliar, let me show you why I decided to go with Brightbonnet as my subsume ability on this build. What Brightbonnet does is allow us to add energy generation to our role as a support player on top of the damage boosting and the overguard generation. When you cast, you will toss down the mushroom. Note that you can't have 2 of these active at once. It will then pulse every 3 seconds, giving you more energy and ability strength. If you go up here, you can see right now we are getting 41% more ability strength from Brightbonnet, which will affect our other abilities and make them consequently a lot stronger. The energy restore also doesn't require enemies to not be killed immediately, so your teammates will appreciate this more than if you tried to use the augment. Next up, we have Light's Verse. Casting this ability will immediately grant you a small amount of overguard. Same goes to all allies and companions that are nearby. There's not really much else to this one. It will restore your HP, so if you are paying attention to your teammates' health bars, then I guess you can cast this if you see them getting super low. But by using your 4th ability, they should never be getting there anyways. Dark Verse is the second of the Verse abilities, but is a lot more focused on damage. Casting will inflict 2 slash statuses on all enemies within line of sight, and these slash statuses actually deal pretty good damage. But the true reason that anybody plays Dante is for Final Verse. If you look in the bottom right above my weapons HUD, you will see Dante's Noctua with 2 different icons on it, both the light and dark verse. If I cast another light verse, you will see that it now becomes dark then light. Toss in another light, we have double light. There are 4 different abilities you can cast with Final Verse, and you get to them by casting different combinations of light and dark verse. You can double cast Light Verse for Triumph. This immediately gives your allies a bunch of overguard and a consistent 208 overguard per second. And on top of all that, it also makes all of your kills give you overguard too, which means that due to overguard gating, as long as you are killing enemies, you can never die if you have a Dante on your team or you are just playing Dante. The combination of 2 dark verses is called Tragedy, and this one is a very big AoE nuke that will take all of these statuses that are on enemies and expedite them like Expedite Suffering, also multiplying their damage at the end. This is the ability combination that kind of turned some heads when he first came out, but right now I feel like it is in a very good place. It is LOS based, so you do need to be able to see enemies to hit them with Tragedy, but that is not really that big of a problem. The first of the combination verses is Word Warden. You get this one by casting a light then a dark verse, and upon activating this one, you gain a copy of Noctua that will hover at your side and automatically shoot at enemies just for attacking them. That is a lot of statuses on all these enemies. I currently have my Noctua set up as a status primer, and it is clearly very effective. More to touch on this in a second, but Word Warden is very, very powerful and definitely a premier ability on this build. It also extends over to your allies, which is just crazy. And then finally we have Page Flight. This one is composed of a dark verse followed by a light verse, and will just create a bunch of birds that swoop down on enemies and make them more vulnerable to status damage. The birds actually do two very powerful things. They make enemies more vulnerable to statuses in general, as in they have like 100% increased status chance just by getting hit by the birds. But they also make enemies take more status damage, like the Elementalist mods, which is kind of ridiculous for an ability with an 84 meter range. Some general things I'll say about Dante is that all of the verses are activate and forget, except for Tragedy, but you just nuke if you see the amount of enemies you want to kill. What this means is that once you activate all of them, you don't really need to worry about paying attention to them until their very long timer of 80 seconds has run out. But regarding how he is as a support Warframe, well, we are giving energy and ability strength, a bunch of overguard, even more consistent overguard, a copy of Noctua that will status prime all the enemies in front of people for them, essentially multiplying their condition overload damage tenfold. And then this one will make all of the enemies take more status damage and also just get more status procs in general. He really just does everything for people's builds, makes you immortal and makes you deal more damage through statuses. And in the status meta that we are in, that is wonderful. On my Noctua, this is what we are building for. Secondary Encumber with every status and status chance mod that we can fit on here. The reason we're doing this is because while I have subsumed over Noctua on this build, obviously we still have a copy of it through Word Warden, and it uses the mods you have on your Noctua on that ability. So building for all of these statuses plus Encumber is going to give us a ton more damage as long as we have a Condition Overload mod equipped on our weapons. And Secondary Encumber, this is going to trigger pretty much every status in the game, which is very useful when it comes to our Dante build because we are using Arcane Impetus. Also, why do I have power donation on? That's a throw. Just, oh shoot, because I couldn't fit it. You should use growing power here. Power donation is kind of a sell. Anyways, Arcane Impetus gives you more ability strength and efficiency for unique status effects, going all the way up to 72% and what, like 36%, respectively, the ability strength being the 72%. And that is very nice because pushing strength as high as we can will make our Brightbonnet give us even more ability strength, in turn making the overguard cap on light verse a lot higher, the overguard regeneration from Triumph a lot higher, the damage given from Word Warden and Peregrims, all of that goes up a ton if we stack Impetus up all the way. Kamisado is activated by the Peregrims, giving them 20% more movement speed, so you definitely want to use this one. Otherwise, I am pushing for maximum ability range so that all of the effects that we are giving to our team are felt no matter how far away they are away from us. 176 duration is comfortable, so you don't need to recast all of this stuff very often. And then, yeah, like I said, we're pushing strength as high as we can go with it. Aphentis is one of the only weapons that can be used to give a buff to your allies, so if you want to do that, then like you could. It's 20% more fire rate and some reload speed. Definitely something to think about. I like to use the Kuva Nucor because it is a very status-focused weapon, and Dante does a ton of status damage. And this one also will just take care of things if we don't want to use our melee, which is the Siam. Here's the build that I have put together using Condition Overload because it is multiplicative with normal base damage sources on the heavy attack wave from Siam, which if you didn't know is like stupid broken. There's no particular reason that I'm using Siam on Dante, but it's just one of those weapons that's like really good. So yeah, like what the hell is that? Focus school wise, you can use whatever you would like. I am using Naramon just so that I can have a bit easier time upkeeping my combo for the heavy attacks on Siam, but literally use anything. For your companion, I recommend Nautilus Prime with this setup right here. Nothing too special. There's not any crazy synergies between the companion and Dante, unfortunately, but hey, the grouping will be of great assistance here. And that is what I have put together for a support-oriented Dante. I know that this might not be how some people want to play him, but with the new augment being very support-focused and it kind of sucking ass, I wanted to give everyone a viable alternative so that they can be the person that everybody in the squad is so happy was there, because you kind of will make your whole team unkillable, as long as you pay attention. Enjoy the gameplay. It was a very nice Perita run I had while using this build, and I will see you all very soon. Peace.